Welcome back to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I'm Nick.
I'm Devin.
Nice.
Much better.
So much better. All right, Dev. Well, welcome to... this will have posted after July 4th. So Straight Pride Day is done. You probably have had your Old Navy sale by this point.
Yeah,
You're
definitely.
in full, Straight Pride month.
Great American scape. That like pool and billiards furniture.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
They'll have that their sale.
They'll have their sale. It's a whole thing. I'm glad that we get to celebrate you.
Thanks.
But now the attention's back on us. Yeah. So it is also. Have you? What?
No, go ahead.
You gasped.
Yeah. No, I was just so. I live in kind of a rural town.
Mm-hmm.
I live a little far south.
Yeah.
Not as far south as you'd think, as with the people around here. But I came across a straight pride flag flying, and I was like, "Why does this exist?"
What does that look like?
It is it's a male and a female symbol, like linked, like the loops linked. And behind them is just a black and white stripes.
You should go to that house and say, "I'm here as an ally to the intersex person in this home."
That would be so fucking funny. Well, because like these people, you'll know what neighborhood town I live in if you drive down this road. They have an American flag, a thin blue line flag, and then the straight pride flag. But like they're hanging off trees that are behind their house to be on like the main road. It's really terrible. But like a house like across the street from them, like if you peek into that neighborhood, has like pride flags and stuff like that flying. It's like, that's nice at least. But I just wanted to... I've never seen a straight pride flag before. I didn't think anyone was enough of an asshole to purchase one and fly it.
Or create one.
Right. Yeah.
It's bewildering to me. It's just that I don't understand why other people's joy has to feel like an attack on you.
Yeah.
I just don't get the mentality. Like, not everything has ever been for you specifically. Like, just growing up in life, you haven't experienced a world, like true world, that is solely for you. Yes, there's privilege within whiteness. There's privilege, of course, with straight whiteness, but and especially men. But you still exist in a world that you've experienced things that like that's not for me, and you've moved on. So why do you feel like people like having joy and celebrating themselves,
right,
like is an affront to you?
It's not like I'm flying a spicy food flag to shit on all the people that don't like spicy food.
But also, like, me celebrating pride is not what you did to us and saying that we need to eradicate you.
Right.
Me celebrating pride is just celebrating the culture of mine, and I want to be happy with my community.
And that you can celebrate now.
Right.
Openly.
You get the 4th of July. Leave it at that, okay?
Right?
Leave it at that.
You get the coal sale every day.
Yeah,
God
exactly.
Damn it.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's kind of insane to me. I just saw a news article. There was a state that I think just adopted like a straight pride parade or like month or something. And I'm just like, literally go fuck yourself.
That sounds so gay.
But it's like, also...
Because it's just going to be a bunch of, like, men walking around.
But, like, it's just a parade.
Yeah.
It's just a parade that, like, we've seen. It just... I don't... Yeah. Like, you're just celebrating, what, straight family? I just don't understand.
I don't get it. Like, what do you celebrate? Like, okay.
It feels like I'm dealing with a toddler, right? Like, it almost feels like, okay, wear yourself out. And then we'll give it some time, and then hopefully you'll be fine, Yeah. Go eat a Snickers. Like, I don't know what to do at this point.
Well, some states are talking about seceding, so maybe they'll all go there.
Honestly, fine. Yeah. This country is too big on its own. Like, secede. Bye. Bye. Good luck.
It'll be great.
Jesus.
Anyway, what were you going to say?
Now I'm mad, which is fine.
Sorry.
No, I mean, but this is great going into this because... July, I don't know if you know this, July is Gay Wrath Month.
Oh.
So back in
Do we go through all the deadly sins?
So back in 2018, someone had tweeted about basically how like July was as like a meme that July is Gay Wrath Month because we just had Gay Pride Month, right? Play off of this heavily. Because and like to step into it a little bit deeper, like basically it was a protest against the commercialization of gay pride during June, and so then July kind of became this. Okay, well now let's talk about like all of the actual like discrimination and liberation and all of those things that have kind of happened within the queer community.
What's your company actually doing to help the queer community?
Correct.
Other than change your logo.
Right. Well, and on top of that, like the commercialization of it, and it was such a celebratory moment, but like unfortunately, Pride sometimes goes without talking about the history that came from it. Yeah. Right. So it's just kind of like this, like, look at where we are, and this celebration, and it's a party, and all of those things. And not to say that the conversations aren't being had, but like it was this moment in 2018 where they were like, okay, well, let's make this funny, but also like, can we actually focus on some actual issues and like, remember our history? Yeah. Right. So I think, as you know, the impetus of, or what is the popularized impetus of kind of the gay rights movement being Stonewall.
Yes.
I'm sure that's been thrown around, right?
Maybe heard about it.
Loosely, I'm sure. But what do you know about, I guess this is more general. I feel like I can't like kind of pinpoint it, but what do you know about kind of the uprisings and liberation movements before Stonewall?
I'm gonna say not much of, if anything.
Yeah.
I mean, like Stonewall's the most famous, for sure, that you hear about most often. I don't think I could specifically like pinpoint one or two other events.
And I will say, like, I don't blame you. What do you call it? Because a lot of the research within these, a lot of it started with, there was a person in like the middle, in like the 2010s that found an article and then uncovered this event of something happening before Stonewall. Because Stonewall just kind of really exploded, right? But there were so many actions and movements and incidents previous to that really kind of started the trajectory, really like kind of lit that flame, right?
Yeah, I feel like Stonewall was the big event, and there are smaller ones across the country that build up to it. Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And it is over years, right? Yeah. Like it's not like, within like the months leading up to Stonewall,
right? It's not like Monday this event happened, Friday Stonewall happened.
Right. But you kind of have this slow kind of burning throughout the country that kind of really leads to this really big moment in New York, right? Yeah. And we're not going to cover Stonewall because it's a lot. It's a 3-day riot. But today we're going to be talking about the kind of forgotten and unspoken stories of kind of uprisings. You'll hear me call them riots, incidents, all of those things that happened leading up to it and really was the catalyst that brought Stonewall to be what it is. So we're going to talk about a couple of those.
Love it.
Sweet. So, have you ever heard of the Black Nite Brawl?
No.
Cool. Let me tell you about it.
I'm probably going to say no to a lot of things you ask about.
I'll still ask. You never know. Have you heard of Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
No.
All right.
Yeah, I've heard about Milwaukee.
It's
okay.
So I've actually never been to Milwaukee. That's a lie. I've been to Milwaukee, but when I was little. I haven't been since. It's like only an hour and a half from us, right?
Yeah, hour and a half, 2. Depending how far you put down that pedal. It's developed.
I've heard it's better.
Yeah,
it's a fun little like weekend trip.
The lake. They need to like take care of their part of the lake a little bit better. But
I feel like everyone needs to take care of their lake and river.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to 1961, Saturday, August 5th.
Okay.
Black Nite Bar in Milwaukee, Wisconsin was one of Milwaukee's most popular gay bars because it not only just tolerated gays, but openly welcomed and embraced them.
Yeah, we tolerate you a lot.
Nah, you're fine. Just don't do anything queer. So owner,
keep your brats to yourself.
We're going to do an offshoot podcast that's just talking like that over different topics. So owner Wally Wetham was a twice married man with kids, and he looked to make a safe space for all customers. So he was saying all sexual and gender expressions were welcome at his bar.
Hey, that's awesome.
Exactly. It was a rarity, especially in Wisconsin at the time, and so patrons were very protective of this bar and their turf, right? Like, once I have one where, like, I always feel safe in this space, I don't want that destroyed or hurt or anything, right? So that kind of, like, sets a little undertone to this event, right? So, on that night, 4 20-year-old servicemen, after having a few drinks down the way, were dared to check out the Black Knight. So the bouncer, and I said the bouncer asked them for ID several times, but the 4 continued to refuse to show them. And remember, like, bouncers aren't like, it's not like a club, right? They're not standing outside. Like, they've entered the bar, right? They're in the bar now, and the bouncer's like, hey, let me see ID, stuff like that. Because they're young. They're 20 years old, right? But it's also Wisconsin, so you openly drink.
Their drinking laws are a little different.
So the bouncer asked them for their IDs, and the 4 continued to refuse to show them. They had a fear that their real identities could kind of be traced back to them being in this bar, and then the rumor spreads and like all of this. Like, no, I'm not gonna. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, you know, all of a sudden someone says something, then someone finds out, and then
right. They were like, oh, someone's gonna recognize me and be like, oh, I saw Johnson at that gay bar.
Right. Talk about a Johnson. You know what I mean?
I picked his name for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. So because they refused, it actually started to turn into like a full fight. Because, like, the bouncer's like, then you have to leave.
You're not following the rules. Get
the fuck out. Right. Yeah. So the serviceman dragged the bouncer out of the bar and started to attack him.
Oh, wow.
One of the servicemen would later claim that he was grabbed, punched, and hit on the head with a bottle for no reason.
No reason.
He was just standing there, and someone attacked him.
He was just standing there beating the shit out of this person.
Right.
No reason.
But that's irrelevant to the story. Correct. So Josie Carter, the bouncer's partner, said, quote, oh no, you're not going to hurt my husband, end quote, and ran outside to protect their man in a bathrobe and 2 beer bottles, one in each hand.
What an image.
She was like, let's fucking go. So I will say for Josie Carter, I do interchange pronouns. There are some documents that say she, her. There are some documents that kind of reference them as transgender, but she did leave a female life. So I kind of go back and forth, but just to call that out. So she runs out there, and then she says, quote, this man turned on me. I thought I couldn't let him put his hands on me. He was big, and he kept coming at me. I thought he would kill me. In that moment, I could fight off an army in a bathrobe. I let him have everything that was in that bottle. He went down, end quote.
That's hilarious.
Incredible. I'm just thinking of that image of her just like bathrobe kind of tied, 2 bottles running out there.
I've taken some artistic license, and I've added like a towel on top of the head, like wrapped up in the hair.
Right. Just fucking ready.
And like fuzzy slippers.
Fuzzy slippers. Incredible. So after giving a good whooping, the servicemen fled and took their friend to the county emergency hospital to be treated. Because he
has a bunch of glass in him.
Correct. So in their anger, though, they returned to the bar that they were previously at before the Black Knight. So the 3 servicemen now went back to Kane Place Tavern and decided to rally the troops, figuratively. So a dozen men followed these guys back downtown to attack the Black Knight because their pride's hurt. They were beat.
Such a waste of time.
By a gay. That can be allowed. So my honor. God. So back at the bar, Wally, the owner, tried to get Josie, the bouncer, and the customers out because he felt that they were gonna come back. Right? He's like, shut it down. We're done. Like, everyone be safe. Right? Yeah. Josie said, quote, but we did not run from a fight. We did not run from nothing. And wouldn't you know it, those big ass motherfuckers came back and just tore apart that bar, looking for little old me and my husband because their buddy got beat up, end quote. She's amazing.
Yeah.
So at this point, the usual Saturday night crowd began to roll in, and Josie kind of rallied the crowd, and everyone actually stayed to fight.
Hell.
She was like, you want to be in here? You better be ready for a fight. Right. Here we go. And they were tired of running and wanted to be known that they wouldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So actually a year earlier, a police raid in Juneau Park resulted in Elroy Schultz, a gay brewery worker, beaten to death.
Jeez.
So
By the police?
By the police,
Wow.
yeah. So what started as a 4-to-1 fight of the servicemen against the bouncer turned into their dozen against a bar of 75 patrons. Angry queens, lesbians, gay men ready to defend their turf by any means necessary. Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
So as the gang of guys ran in and started tearing up the bar definitely fought back.
Yeah.
So, quote from Josie. Quote, one of the guys came at me and said, okay, you sick faggot, come on. I popped him right there, and the blood sprayed, and he fell to the ground. I'll never forget that as long as I live. He started it, but I stopped it. I may be a faggot, but I'm the one who stopped it. End quote. Like, incredible. Incredible. Okay. So it was quick but mighty. One patron experienced a concussion when he was hit over the head with a bar stool. He would be in critical conditions for weeks. Another suffered extreme lacerations when he was thrown through a broken window.
Ooh.
Right. All in all, over $2,000 in losses were reported, including the bar's entire liquor inventory, an electric organ, which I was like, okay, a jukebox, and all windows, which $2,000 then is about $21,000 today. It's a lot of damage.
It is. Not as much as I thought it would be.
True. Maybe not like top shelf liquor. Yeah. I think we're not shooting for that. So again, shortly after the fight began, the cops showed up and arrested all the men that came down to destroy the bar.
Oh, none of the patrons?
Surprising twist.
Yeah.
Surprising twist. So the police even scolding the servicemen that they had no business coming down to the Black Knight and harassing these people.
Hell yeah.
Right? Okay. Milwaukee PD, I see you.
Yeah.
Josie remembering that the police were even good to them back... Oh, my God. Josie remembering that the police were always good to them, took care of them, and taught them how to stay out of trouble. No problem as long as they didn't create problems. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what we want to see, right? What we're hoping for, what we're striving for. So Josie Carter was a gender nonconforming black self-described queen, in quotes. They did not consider themselves transgender. However, they lived a full and proud female life.
Okay.
Josie was a survivor of bullying as a kid and sexual violence, a survivor that was ready and knew how to fight back. So it's interesting that police were always good to her when cross-dressing laws were in effect at the time, right? So police could stop, inspect, and arrest any individual not wearing 3 pieces of biological gender-appropriate clothing.
That's so fucked up.
Right? Right?
What a waste of a law.
I mean, it just... And there's a couple more as we go through some other events, but it's just like it was so vague and loose how they wrote some of these laws was just to harass, arrest, and like beat down minority groups.
Right.
Right? They were like, no, we're just going to say cross-dressing. Yeah. Or we're just going to say like sodomy laws, but even kissing is, looped into it. Right? So it's just bananas. Josie said, quote, "Oh, and I was so proud of myself, but when I went back to the bar and grabbed the door handle, I realized my whole finger was pushed all the way backwards. I didn't even notice that during the fight. I just kept fighting. We all did. I have never lived in fear. All someone can do is beat me up. But believe me, if I see them again, anywhere, they'll remember me. I promise you that." End quote.
I can't move my fingers.
And it's just like, now, do we think like straight out pushed back or like bent back?
I think probably bent all the way back.
Right?
Yeah, I don't think you can jam. You probably can with enough force, but I think more in a fight, it would be about like bending your finger
kind of like
all the way back.
caught something and yeah.
Yeah.
So gross.
Because I think it's easier to break your finger back that way
than it is to like shove it back. Yeah,
like Wolverine claws.
I think there's a quote about that somewhere. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I get it, like adrenaline in a fight, like all of that. But
of
like,
course. Yeah. Oh fuck. Okay.
I didn't realize that until I reached for the door handle.
Yeah. I'm just.
Why aren't all my fingers touching this handle?
Flexing my hands underneath the table for a little bit.
Really making sure. Yeah, exactly. So the 4 servicemen were charged with disorderly conduct, but Judge Christ T. Seraphim, yes, that's his real name. I looked it up. I went to the official website.
I don't think you should be able to serve in the justice system with such a holy ass name.
Christ T. Seraphim. Because I was like, oh, maybe they like mistyped.
What did
so it's
T
like
stand
Chris.
for? The Lord?
One word.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild. So Judge Seraphim later dismissed the charges due to, quote, lack of evidence. Exactly. The eye raise, 100%.
Sorry, this is an audio podcast.
Yeah.
I raised my eyebrows as far as they could go.
Right. So the bar was also ordered to close, and the entire block containing the city's earliest known gay bars was deliberately demolished.
Whoa.
And it's not to say, like...
What an overreaction.
I think, well, and like I will say, like the latter aspect of that, of like demolishing that, didn't happen like the next day. They demolished the whole block. But I think it's more so the bar was already destroyed and so much damage had happened to it. Because, like, I mean... The bar itself is destroyed. All the liquor, the windows, like all of that. They were just like
the organ.
The organ. They just shut it down.
Yeah.
And then I think once that closed, they kind of like gave way to some other things, and then
domino effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the brawl, however, inspired many of the earliest gay activists in Milwaukee. So many of them, including the leaders of the Gay People's Union, Eldon Murray and Alan Hess, spoke to not only was it the first time a Milwaukee gay bar was mentioned in the newspaper, but this event was a definite call to arms. It offered a glimmer of hope and the beginnings of revolution.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, like, people were ready for the newspaper to turn the fight into a scandal, right? Anytime that gay people and places were kind of in the newspaper, it was always a negative indictment, right?
Yeah.
It was, they were criminal or a pervert or sexual deviants. Like, it was always something. But this time, Milwaukee told it better.
You know, I wouldn't have put Milwaukee on my bingo card.
Right? Well, actually, I think I have it here. Yeah, I get to it in a second, but Wisconsin is like one of the first to pass discrimination laws against sexual orientation.
That's surprising.
Right? Right? Yeah.
Good on you.
Right? I actually learned that because, so Vinny does Camp Queer. So it's basically a big field day, all gays, and you're doing like different like tug of war, wheelbarrow races, things like that, but of course... a gay twist. But one of the bonus rounds while we were like taking a break was gay trivia. Like different questions, like, you know, when was what state was the first state to legalize domestic partnerships or civil unions? What state was the first to pass anti-discrimination laws against sexual orientation? Things like that. And that's why we're in Wisconsin.
No way.
Crazy.
Good for you, Wisconsin.
Good for you, Wisconsin. Illinois was actually the first to repeal sodomy laws.
Oh.
And I said, oh, thank God.
I'd have to move.
Right. Gotta get out of here. But Milwaukee told it better this time, and not only did the city learn that gay people existed here, they had a strong community that had their own spaces, and they would fight back if provoked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by 1962, the Milwaukee Journal reported that, quote, the homosexual has gotten bolder. Which I loved that title.
These homosexuals are getting bolder every day.
Getting crazy. And then by 1969, over 36 gay bars opened in Milwaukee, which seems a little outlandish. We don't even have 36 gay bars in Chicago. And you're telling me in 1969, over 36 gay bars opened in Milwaukee? First of all, bullshit.
Little
Second
saturation.
I think it's also like gay, like approved
Friendly,
spaces, and then those that are like, we'll serve you if you're gay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
it's like friendly spaces.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't want to call out Milwaukee that they're like lying about their city. It's just like, that feels a little unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Guess we'll have to go.
Right. Road trip.
Camera cuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Montage.
It's just us drinking PBRs.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they're, because of the like brewery nature of Milwaukee, I feel like there are enough spaces, enough bars to like warrant having X amount of bars being gay friendly.
Yes.
Not specifically gay
bars. Yeah. I think that's kind of what it was. And then March 2nd, 1982, Wisconsin becomes the first state to outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation.
There we go.
So it was actually a case called People v. West 12 Tenants Corps.
Okay.
Basically, it was the first HIV/AIDS discrimination lawsuit.
Oh.
Neighbors attempted to evict Dr. Joseph Sonnabend from the building because he was treating HIV-positive patients. And they fucking lost.
It wasn't like out of his apartment, was it? It was like he had
I think he had like an office.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I would get it if he was doing like underground medical stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it was like, I mean, there might have been an aspect of like home care where like patients were coming in and then he was giving them medication, things like that.
Yeah.
I didn't dive too far into it, but yeah, they tried to bounce him and they said, you can't fucking do that.
No.
You're fine. Unless you're like having sex with these patients, you're fine.
Yeah, he's
like
following all the other laws.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was just so much stigma around it. Like even like if someone with HIV/AIDS entered a space, like people thought it was airborne. People thought it was, you know what I mean, all of these things,
Right,
and so
yeah.
it kind of spiraled from there.
The famous picture of Princess Di like touching
Right.
a person with AIDS.
Because they're like, that's fine. You know what I mean?
It's like, I'm good.
Right. Well, and this was also, remember, 1982. So the very beginning. So
Yes.
all of that rumor
Yes.
and all of that misinformation is out there. So that was that. And then in 2014, Josie passed away.
Wow.
Up to her death, Josie always humbly downplayed the event as just another wild night out and refused to accept the title of, quote, Mother of Gay Milwaukee. I think she was just like, I don't want all of that. I don't need all of that. Like, this was something that we just did because you protect your own.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, she definitely talked about it, and it was definitely like a fun affair. She wasn't like, don't talk to me.
It's a great story.
Yeah, exactly. But she never kind of took on the kind of honor of what she did that night.
Yeah.
Right. So as of November 2022, the site of the Black Knight Bar, although now demolished, was recognized by the Milwaukee County Landmarks Committee with a historical landmark designation. And then activists are still working to get landmark status from the state, both a designation and a marker.
Okay.
And that's the Black Knight Bar.
Very fun story.
Yeah.
Just sipping on some water. Very fun story. No, that's good. It was refreshing to see the support from city officials.
Right. I mean, like, it's crazy because raids still happened, right, of bars. That was still occurring. There was still, like, obviously the year earlier, like, a raid resulting in the death of a gay brewery worker. But this was kind of that instant where they took advantage of the opportunity without knowing it.
Yeah.
Right. And it really sparked a lot of kind of other people kind of spreading that word out. Right. But obviously did a lot for Wisconsin and for Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like the Midwest is usually just like, okay,
we're pretty like just live
your life.
Yeah, live your life.
Exactly.
Indiana, not so much anymore, but
yeah, we kind of
shove them away.
We push them
down.
south. Yeah, you're like, you're fine. Yeah. So that was the Black Knight Tavern, and it is Nite, not like a medieval night.
Oh, and not even like the Starry Night.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
They made it their own. So now we're going to go into, we're going to jump over to New York.
Okay.
This is not as exciting.
Oh.
I know. But no double fisting beer bottles. But had a very, very big impact and really set the stage for liquor laws, for bars, for kind of gay rights within society.
Sure.
Cool. So this is called the Julius Tavern Sip-In.
Okay.
All right. So April 21st, 1966, Julius's, which was at 10th and Waverly in New York City, which I believe is still there. It is still there. Was just around the corner from Stonewall Inn.
Oh.
Julius's had been open since the 1860s, actually.
Whoa,
Isn't that crazy?
that's cool.
Yeah. Which, do you know what the oldest bar in New York is? Currently operating bar?
But no.
McSwirly's.
I don't like that name.
They only serve, from when we went there, I think they still only serve light or dark.
Oh,
draft.
Yeah, that's very traditional.
And there's like cornmeal, sawdust, sand on the ground. And like they really lean into the oldest bar. And then you sit there and you're like, rah, cheersing and mugs. And
That's pretty cool, though.
a lot of head on that fucking beer,
Well, yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Just like,
That
I
makes
get
sense.
it. And also, I think it's 2024. I think you're fine.
They don't just like give you swirlies as you sit down.
Like every seat's a toilet. Yeah. Boo. So, open since 1860. So, the players, Dick Leitch, Craig, get it out.
All right, I'm good.
Craig Rodwell.
I'm not going to laugh at that name. I had to, though.
John Timmons and Randy Wicker.
Randy.
All
right.
So Dick was the leader of the New York chapter of the Mattachine Society. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this before.
I haven't.
One of the first, kind of, it started in the 50s. Sure. They were I kind of get into it here, but they were founded in the 1950s in LA by communist and labor activist Harry Hay. They just kind of part of the gay liberation movement.
Okay, sure.
So the name was inspired by the Société Mattachine, which is French.
I could tell by your perfect pronunciation and impeccable French accent.
I think what we learned from the La Moupon episode is that I have quite the great French accent. So this group was a medieval and Renaissance mask performing group, which I don't know if you've ever heard of mask before. It's basically just like performances done in literal masks.
Okay.
But
it's like LARPing.
I think not as much role play.
Sure.
Sure.
A little bit more scripted.
Correct. So this was a lifelong secret fraternity of unmarried townsmen who never performed in public unmasked and were dedicated to going out into the countryside and conducting dances and rituals during the Feast of Fools, sometimes acting as peasant protests against oppression.
Okay.
So they're like unmarried gay men in the woods, oppression, and then that's kind of how it happened.
Playing roles.
You get it.
Yeah.
The Gay Society took the name because it felt 1950s gays were also a masked people, unknown and anonymous, helping each other through the struggle move towards change.
Sure.
Feels a little dramatic. Like, well, I get it.
Nothing's too dramatic.
Right. Do you remember what you're talking about? Yeah. So the group was an early national homophile organization with the goal to protect and improve gay rights.
Homophile is a fun word.
Well, next note, you ready? Homophile was preferred at the time because homosexuality was defined as a mental disorder by the American Psychiatric Association until 1973.
Yeah, I think that's where I was kind of going with my last episode about Sarah Josephine Baker, where it was like that psychosexuality type of thing, where it's like, oh, you're not well if you're not conforming to our ideas.
If you're not normal.
Right.
You have clearly a mental disorder.
You're a little queer.
Right.
You're abnormal.
Correct. So because of that, they didn't want that kind of overshadowing their movement and their group, and so they went with homophile. So branches formed in other cities and even went into regional groups by 1961. So you kind of had like regions of sections of this group to kind of start to make change, right? Yeah. So New York in the early 1960s, quote, drinking while gay was considered to be illegal. Let me tell you more.
When can I drink?
Only while straight.
Oh, okay.
Duh.
Right.
Because it's obviously a choice.
But like what? Do I... like? It's like, all right, I'm going to be making out with a woman and then I'm going to have a beer in my hand. That's the only time I can drink because that's the only time I can prove that I'm not gay.
Correct. But if you're making out with a man, no drinks.
No drinks in your hand.
Don't even think about it.
Make out with a woman, you can have a drink in your hand.
Right. Drunk, woman.
Yeah.
Sober, man.
Right.
Perfect. Glad we made that distinction. So New York, I said that. The New York State Liquor Authority based requirements for service at bars on, quote, orderly conduct. Mm-hmm. So it was not as easy to discern a person's sexual orientation as it was obviously their sex or race. So they had to go by conduct. This meant intimate encounters between two men were deemed disorderly and service could be refused.
Okay.
Let me tell you more.
Yeah.
Intimate encounters was also a vague term.
Very.
And if men's actions were deemed disorderly, that meant the bar or restaurant as a whole could be seen as disorderly because they were allowing it, and they could have their liquor license revoked or even the whole place shut down.
Sure.
Right? Because even though it's the actions of two individuals within the bar, if it's happening, the bar clearly is condoning the behavior. So then police could say, oh, now we're shutting this down. Or
it still happens today with, like, if you serve underage patrons.
Sure.
You can get your liquor license pulled, you can get fined, etc.
Right.
Depending on how bad it is.
Correct.
You can get shut down.
Right. So same thing here, but then, of course, they make the term so loose that anything could be kind of deemed. So examples are one man buying another a drink.
Right.
One man chatting another up in a potentially flirtatious manner. Like, it was so
shaking
subjective.
Your hand, joking, laughing,
right.
looking into your eyes. Like, that's...
Correct. Anything, like, police could come in and just be like, gay. Shut it down.
And, no, you're gay.
And it's a guy, like, fixing his hair. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so vague to allow for the harassment of, and to kind of rid the city of gayness, right? So bars that served gay people ran a high risk, especially as targets of police raids. We can thank Mayor Robert F. Wagner Jr. for the increase.
Oh.
Hey, thanks, Mayor. So Mayor Wagner had the World's Fair in New York in 1964. So, and with millions of visitors, especially families and dignified individuals, he couldn't have gays running around. So
running amok.
So he engaged in a huge cleanup of New York City, which included cleaning up Times Square, raiding and shutting down gay establishments, and ridding the city of homosexuals.
Okay.
You get out of here. So the Mattachine Society wanted to now challenge this president in court, but needed a case to do so. So they're like, okay, this law is a little fucking ridiculous, right? But we need the case to get us to court.
Right.
So we can't just be like, we're going to sue you. You know what I mean? So they took inspiration from the successful model of sit-ins of the civil rights movement and decided to stage a sip-in.
Okay.
Because it's a bar.
Right.
Where you, like, sip a drink.
Yeah.
You sip it.
So how do I consume a drink?
Through a straw.
Okay, so I have a drink in my hand. I don't have a straw.
Oh. Then like a dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you're not watching this, that must have sounded fantastic. So actually, and there's a couple other instances in the other events, but a lot of the gay liberation movement, tactics, inspiration, all of that was taken from the Black Civil Rights Movement that was happening at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. So with the election of a new mayor now, John Lindsay in 1965, Dick saw his opportunity and went for it. I hate you. So Mayor Lindsay was a liberal Republican, and they wanted to push the liberal side of that.
Wow, liberal Republican. You never hear those words.
Don't see that a lot. So they began by challenging policies such as plainclothes harassment / police activity that was designed to trick gay men into breaking the law.
Yeah.
So I was watching a clip. I think it was like this show called like The Midwife or something like that. Sure. It's like a BBC show. But basically there would be like sting operations where like two men in a like a public bathroom, and one would be, I think we talked about this a little bit in Vinny's episode. And one would kind of like reach for a towel that was between them but let it linger, and the other one would kind of like pick it up and like, you know, put his hand on the other guy's hand, and they'd be like, I'm police, you're arrested. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
You're right.
Yeah.
So they started with these kind of tactics and challenging policies there to see kind of where they could get with this mayor, right? So the plan was to walk. So now they went from there. Then they moved to disorderly conduct policies. Okay. So now getting into kind of the liquor license kind of aspect of things, right? So the plan was to walk into a bar and reveal to the bartender that he, Dick, and his colleagues were homosexuals. And when denied service, they could take that action against the New York State Liquor Authority with the support of the ACLU. Okay. So they wanted to walk into a bar and be like, we're gay, give us a drink. And and then when they were like, hey, you can't be gay and drink, then they'd be like, we're going to sue you. And then ACLU would be like, we got you.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So with a plan set, the group reached out to news reporters to cover the story to aid an opinion in their case. So like, hey, New York Times, Village Voice, all these people, like, we're going to go do this. Come with us.
Right. This is going to be a great story.
Correct. So their first bar, remember that? First bar, the Ukrainian-American Village restaurant on St. Mark's and 3rd in the East Village, had a sign in the window that stated, quote, if you are gay, please go away. End quote.
Love the rhyme.
Love the rhyme. They were like, we'll make it fun, but like, stay the fuck out. So it seemed like the perfect target. They're like, they don't want us. We'll enter there.
Right.
So Dick recalls, quote, we thought, because of the sign, that would be very dramatic. And we'd go
what
there.
What a good target.
Right. And we'd go there and ask for service and see what happened. We notified the press, and being gay, we got there late. End quote. So because they got there late, the New York Times had arrived before they did and asked the manager of the restaurant what he thought about the gay demonstration.
Yeah.
The manager had no idea that because it clearly didn't happen, and so he closed the place down for the day.
Oops.
He was like, that's not happening here. Is that supposed to happen here? Everyone out. Shut it down. So then the men tried Howard Johnson's and Waikiki, but when they announced they were gay, they were served anyway.
Oh.
And my next note is, don't you hate when tolerance ruins your plans? So a bartender at Howard Johnson's was later interviewed and asked why they were served even after the men's statement, to which the bartender replied, quote, how do I know they're homosexual? They ain't doing nothing homosexual. End quote.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, sure, I appreciate that, but
Guess.
wild. So next, they went to Julius's, which they assumed would be a safe bet since it had just been raided a few days earlier.
Right.
So it was raided because a clergyman was arrested for soliciting sex.
Oh, classic clergyman.
Classic clergy. So a sign in the bar's window said, quote, this is a raided premise. That's it. They like put a sign up to be like, because what happened was if a place was raided, they would put a uniformed officer inside the door until the trial happened.
Oh.
To kind of be like making sure everything was still kosher and everything was under wraps and all of that, right? So because of that, they were like, this is clearly a winner.
Yeah.
Julius has the fourth time's a charm,
right.
maybe. Yeah. So the men entered the bar and ordered with the bartender. As the bartender placed the glasses on the bar and began to make their drinks, Dick said, we are gay and intend to remain orderly. We just want service.
Right.
At this point, the bartender said, hey, you're gay. I can't serve you. I think it's against the law.
Sounds like a terrible script.
Everywhere I've seen, those are in quotes.
Hey, you're gay. I can't serve you.
It's against the law.
Jesus.
And places his hand on top of the glasses, which at that point, photo taken. Which that's the photo that just heard around the world.
Yeah.
Not really, but you get it.
Well, I haven't heard about it.
So that was, the photo was taken and it was covered the story in the New York Times and the Village Voice with the headline, quote, 3 deviates invite exclusion by bars.
What a headline.
Truly. So there was also a theory, which I saw it, not a lot of evidence to it.
Sure.
But there is also a theory that the bartender started to make the drinks and the guys told him they would help the bar with their legal issues if they refused to serve them. But I didn't find a lot of information there. So I think like they walked in and he was like, sure, whatever. And like started to make the drinks like, no. If you say no, we'll help you with your raid trial. And then this.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you're gay. I can't serve you.
Reading off the card.
Yeah, exactly. So the Mattachine Society and the ACLU now had their case against the New York State Liquor Authority. At the time, the State Liquor Authority denied the discrimination claim, stating that the decision to serve or refrain from serving individuals was up to the bartender. They're like, whoa. We never said they couldn't do that. That's their call.
Okay.
That's not us. The Commission on Human Rights even got involved, claiming that homosexuals had the right to be served in bars, and the discriminatory policy no longer viewed homosexuals as, quote, disorderly. So, thank you, Human Rights Commission.
But did they get that in right? Like, when did that change?
Right. So, in 1967, the courts ruled that gays have the constitutional right to peacefully assemble, which the state cannot take away from anyone. So indecent behavior had to be more than same-sex flirting, kissing, or touching. So they're like, indecent behavior is not just like giving someone a kiss.
A guy.
Right. We're really getting in there. And even then we'll talk about that. So this undercut the previous contention that the presence of gay clientele automatically was grounds for charges of operating a, quote, disorderly premise. So gays could legally drink in a bar now.
Hey.
Yay!
Love to see it.
you can drink when you're gay. Although this was no longer illegal, getting a liquor license for an openly gay bar was still difficult. Which is why mafia-owned bars still existed in 1969, such as the Stonewall Inn. So over the next several years, the gay community in New York felt empowered by the fact that they were still oppressed and felt empowered by the fact that while they were still oppressed in society, they had recovered their safe havens. They actually had a place that they could be without you got this overlooming raiding kind of at any moment's notice.
They can be a little bit more at ease.
Exactly. So police raids even became less commonplace.
That's good.
Right? So with this sense of complacency came the strength to defend it. Stonewall may have never happened if it hadn't been for Julius's sipping. Because people were more like lax, more open. You know what I mean? Like that kind of allowed that catalyst of like, oh, we were able to like fight for our rights and it worked. You know? Yeah. So Julius was added to the National Register of Historic Places on April 21st, 2016. At the time, only 1 of 10 historic places honoring any aspect of LGBTQ plus history was on the National Register. So, and that is Julius's sip-in.
Incredible.
Right? So, I'm going to pause this there.
Sure.
Not necessarily that like next week's a part 2, but just like some more events we can cover. But those are 2 of kind of the first like achievements in states of like gay rights and being kind of an actual member of society.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm still shocked by Milwaukee.
Right.
I don't think I'll ever get over that.
Right.
No, those were very fun stories. Those are good.
Yeah. So I really hope they ask the bartender to play into it. I really hope they're like, no, don't stop tolerating us.
Let me write this on a napkin for you real quick. And
Correct.
Just read off this napkin.
They're like, we can't go do a 5th bar, okay? This is too embarrassing. Come on. But yeah, so I really hope that people just kind of understand that, like, yes, Stonewall had a lot of importance. There's a lot there. But there were so many things that happened before that that kind of get lost to history, especially when the media is the one writing the coverage and it's deviates and it's, criminals and all of those things. Like, there are moments that we can really celebrate in these times to say, here are the little baby steps we took along the way.
Yeah. It wasn't all villainous stories as the media portrayed.
And sometimes you just got to pick up 2 beer bottles in a bathrobe. You know what I mean? It sometimes just happens. So, but anyway, thank you, Devin. And thank you, everyone. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, do all the things. You can find us at WDYK_podcast across all social media networks. And we will see you next time.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.